What's going on, man?
Nothing at all. Thank you for having me on. It's been something I've been waiting for a while. It's ever since my brother did it last time. I was hesitant and nervous, but at the same time excited because I've never really been on something like this before, obviously. Um, but I do want to be a part of more things like this in the future, definitely.
That's good. That's good. Um, yeah, we're excited to have you too. We what we do with this podcast. The idea, the goal is to just have every bit of aspects of life. So we can have everybody from like I said, like on the last podcast, maybe like from kindergarten all the way to to
Oh
the
man.
last of age. So because we want to, we're learning every day in life.
Mhm.
We're just learning as we go. So everybody's thought, mindset, and um, life is very important. So that's why we tend to have any guest we have here. So to us, it's a special, it's a special. You're a very special guest to us, and I feel like you're gonna open up. When I was actually coming here, I was thinking, I was like, what am I gonna, what's interesting question should I ask? I should ask you. But one thing that came to mind was like, I wanna take myself back to, high school life. Like like what's not even take myself back. Like what's going? Because you're in that middle. You're going to 10th grade, right?
Yes, I am.
So you're in the middle,
Mhm.
That
middle of,
middle, yeah.
of high school. So I wonder what it is like these days. It's a lot different from every generation. Things are different. So it'd be interesting
Oh
to
yeah.
to hear your viewpoints.
Well, I am a semi-late Gen Z baby, so I'm speaking from mostly the perspective of anyone born like 2006, maybe 2009, maybe 2005 too.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to high school, uh, the main thing right now is kind of like uh, I don't know how to say it. High school right now is not as the cliche as it thought, because when I first entered high school, of course, as most people do, have the mindset of it's going to be cliques and different, you know, types of people in different categories. And while I do see that a lot, um, I feel like nowadays there's a lot more intermingling, and no one really cares about what you do for the most part. I mean, it's still there, prominent, and uh, you can't just mess with anyone still, but uh, there's definitely a more interconnected system going on in high school nowadays. But my high school now is really relaxed for me, and
Yeah.
it's definitely more like laid back and lazy. Like no one cares anymore as much as it used to. Teachers don't care. The teachers are all like, in my school personally, all the teachers are like, for some reason, 25 years old, like fresh out of college.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, it's because teachers right now is not an easy thing to come up with. The schools are not supplying teachers very well, obviously, because of the labor shortage, which is also affecting the education part of employment. So um, most of the teachers right now are like very young and
Right.
fresh, and
Right.
they're
Mm.
struggling to keep up with like the demand of how many teachers they need for all the students.
That's crazy because when I was growing up in high school, you'd be lucky to get a 25-year-old teacher.
I know.
All the teachers were old.
Oh yeah.
The kids love, we were in high school, so we were teenagers. It's like, oh my God, she's 25, she's 26. And then, that's crazy that you said that they're like all young, fresh out of college, because ours were ancient.
Maybe they were mainly substitute teachers.
What?
Where they were the ones that were young, the substitute teachers, mostly were the young ones.
Exactly. That's how it was for me in elementary school, honestly. Because that was, way back in the early 2010s and mid 2010s. So most of the teachers I had during that time in elementary were old, like you said. My fifth grade teacher was like, I'm pretty sure like a couple years away from retirement, honestly. And it was similar in middle school, but then I feel like after the pandemic left, uh, also the teachers left, and when we came back in 2021, after we were allowed to go back to schools in my county, Most of the teachers were very young, and it stayed like that until now. My my social studies teacher in 8th grade was like I think 28, and right now my social studies teacher is like 30 something, in his early 30s, which is not the youngest, but compared to what I was used to before the pandemic, my 60 and 50s and 70-year-old teachers. It was weird, and it's better in my opinion because as a teenager you don't want to work that much, of course. I'm kind of different in that regard because I do take school somewhat more seriously than most people do, I think. But I still do like to be lazy sometimes, especially towards the end of the school year. So having those younger teachers who don't really care and are closer to your generation. In fact, some of my teachers are in my generation, honestly, because Gen Z is 1997, I think it believes. So I do have some teachers in my generation, honestly, who can relate and connect to what we feel about school and teaching and all that stuff. So it's better than that regard to have a teacher who's more in touch with what you feel like than having an old teacher who's 40, 50 years older than you.
Yeah, I did have a question about that regarding the pandemic, because you actually were in school when it happened, because I wasn't in school. How did that affect the whole entire system when it comes to the dynamic of school? I know that they have like iPads and stuff for the kids now. They had you working from home. Like, how was that? Was it like weird to you? Did you adapt, or how was that?
Well, of course, at first, when the pandemic first became an issue here in America, it was in March 2020, and they were closing down schools and everything else. At the time, we all thought it was only like 2 weeks or like a month or something. So, for us, it was just like, let's go, a long vacation from school, we're going to come back, but at least we get a couple weeks off where we're going to mess around and do whatever. So we had like 2 weeks of like basically a spring break, it felt like, because we could do whatever we want. At the same time, it wasn't, because we couldn't go anywhere. So it was boring, but at the same time, a lot more fun than going to school. But once we came back, I think it was sometime in April of 2020, we since it was way too long of not getting any education, they told us that we're going to start doing Zoom meetings. And at first, it was very difficult for me, as it was for most people, because we didn't have any of the tools or assistance we wanted to really be capable to do these things. Because when you're in the classroom environment, you have everything there, and the environment is more suited to learning and education and everything. But when you're in your bedroom or in your living room or office at home, yeah, it's uncomfortable, and or it's comfortable, but sorry, I heard you, but it is comfortable, but at the same time, it's too comfortable, because like it's harder to focus. There's lots of distractions, lots of like it could be doing better things. Like me, and I know a lot of other kids would be in Zoom meetings and playing games in the background, because I would have my iPad on the table and my TV was like behind it, and my teachers didn't care about having cameras on. So the camera on my iPad would be right there, and my TV would be on, and I'll be playing Call of Duty or something, and I would just play while vaguely listening to whatever the teacher is saying, enough to be able to do it later. And it got to the point where my dad got very mad at me, because eventually my grades started falling, and I was slacking off a lot more than I normally do. And I got my report card for the fourth semester, and it was very bad compared to my other ones, to say the least. So he got very pissed off at me, and he took away my Xbox. He took away a lot of things for a couple days. And, it made me realize that I had to get my act together and start focusing a lot, even though it was difficult and it was not easy to do. And I feel like a lot of people didn't have that encouragement to still push on, because even as I got into 8th grade, many people were still struggling and still slacking off. And it wasn't until, like I said, 2021 in the spring, when people started going back, but it was optional at the time if you wanted to go back. So many people still stayed home and still played games and everything. I wanted to go back to school because that's a better environment for me to learn. And like I said, I take school a little bit more seriously than most people my age. So I wanted to go back and have the full experience again, so I could really be to the fullest capability to be able to learn again. And it got to the point where next year in my high school, they're going to add, I think, 4 more periods to the school schedule because so many people throughout the pandemic were losing credits because they were performing so badly that they have to try to boost up the credits again because people were struggling to learn throughout the pandemic. So yeah, it got really bad for most people, and it was bad for me too at first. But thanks to my dad, I really did. It helped a lot to have that lecture and have those things taken away because it was really hard.
Yeah, I want to touch base. You actually made a very good point when you kind of going back a little bit when you mentioned that it's actually it's good and it's bad to have young teachers. I didn't even think about that because that's one thing. That's one complaint. Not complaint, but that's something I felt to during my time too. Because we always say we always thought, oh, teachers don't understand. You know what I mean? I'm sure even at this time they're still older, but then the connection is there. And I think we're talking about presidency. It's the same thing. Like we're talking about how a president is. Most presidents are so the way old, older than the majority of the of the country's age, the average country's age, so they can't really understand what's really going on in the world, or in their country. So they're trying to make rules based off on their thoughts, which is so so. Also, I really wanted to touch base on that. And then the other thing that you touched on is just now. I can imagine being in school and using Zoom, doing Zoom calls, because man, being at home. Because I mean, I work. I did the same thing even right now. We work for a lot of people are working from home, adults too, and even for adults too, is very difficult to focus because you're just in your comfort zone. You can't work. A company or just even society itself, like was built upon working together with somebody. There's a whole big difference when you work with somebody next to you versus when somebody's virtual. That connection is missing. It's almost like it reminds me of social media because you're not some of the stuff you can say on social media you couldn't say to somebody right in your face.
Oh no!
So it's like, wow, I can't imagine being in high school and working from home. I would have loved it though.
Yeah,
I'm not, but but it's destructive. Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking, I feel that like I would have loved it, but then I see
I see his point.
I see his point because I'm thinking I was like, wow, in high school, but I'm like. Would I really have loved it? Because, like, I feel like as a human being, you need to talk to other...
You need
that physical presence of other human beings. Right. So it's like you're cooped up in the house. And and high school is just so much social interaction. So, I don't know. It's I would have loved it, though, like you said.
I mean, I think when it first happens, it's something new. Like, when they announce it, you're not thinking, oh, man, we have... Because one thing you think of, whether it's work or school, whatever, just staying home at least once or twice a week is you want to do that. That's why that weekend is very, it's very exciting to be on a weekend. But then when it becomes a standard, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that at your age you're able to figure yourself out, focus and step back and say, okay, wait, I'm slacking here. That's amazing. That's a good thing. Because most students are not that developed to think of it that way. And like you said, of course, also thankful to your dad who cared, who noticed and pushing you. Imagine if you were, with a parent that didn't really care, but, they just not paying attention to what's going on. You'd have been, probably, taking the wrong path.
Most adults can't even do that.
Most adults can't even do that. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. It's very, it's crazy because not even, I think, like you said, not even just being a student, adults, we felt the same way too. We were happy. We were like, we can work from home. Now I catch mom and say, man, I wish we were at the office.
Because you miss people. You detach. You detach from society.
And it's funny that I want to touch upon what he said about about teachers being younger and teaching you as a younger teacher. It's funny because right now what's going on with the whole entire case, the Roe versus Wade Supreme Court overturning that's kind of similar situation to his teacher thing, where it's people are saying that the Supreme Court judges aren't even like in touch with us, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when they made that decision, it's well, you know, I have so much to say about that whole entire
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah,
But
we can
what
touch base on
do you
that.
you know about? Do you know anything about
I do.
what happened? What are your thoughts on that whole entire
Mhm.
case? Or you can even
Yeah.
kind of explain it for the people who don't really, you know, pay attention. Because I know you're into politics, so I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you that.
Well, yeah, I usually am, but the big thing about Roe versus Wade for me is that because it is more of a woman's problem, I didn't pay that much attention to it. I mean, I do care about, you know, the right for women to want to make the choice to have an abortion or not, but at the same time, as a male, I feel like I shouldn't be making any decisions towards what women are trying to do. That's the same thing my mom was talking to me about when we were talking about it this weekend. And I think it's something that it's men, while men can get a general understanding of what of anything about this, I feel like the main discussion should be woman to woman, because it's about women's body, it's about women's choice, it's about women's rights, it's everything about women. It's nothing that a man should be dictating, in my opinion, at all.
I feel that. I
agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a working call to it's those are the things that you know, we, like you said, as men, we don't go through all this stuff, so there's a lot of things we don't understand, even just something as simple as pregnancy. And as you get older, you start to understand, and you start having nieces and nephews, and you know, or you start having kids, you start to see that, wow, this is there's a big discussion to be made here. And like you said, you know, the people who make these decisions, it opens up room for judgment, a lot of room for judgment. Because I mean, I try to, like I always say, I try to put myself in the position of those people. Like, you making a decision like this, you as an individual, as a human being, how do you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I mean, I know all this stuff, everybody's an opinion, but there's just certain things, I just feel like this is why we say such is life, you know.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are just, to me, I feel like it's just common sense. I mean, yes, I mean, maybe they're trying to follow, you know, a protocol or follow the Bible, or, but you know, when you're looking at reality and you live with human beings, and it impacts a lot of, you know, people, and you could see even the response, how people are coming back, and I can imagine most people are against that. So to feel like they don't see that is beyond me.
Yeah,
It's just doesn't make sense to me.
yeah, it's crazy to me. Because I feel like you said, it's common sense, and most people like are on the same, you know, same train as him. I'm a male. I can't really decide what a female should and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if they told, I mean, there's like they told us, we as women, they say, oh, all males, you got to do this. You know, like we're like, okay, like, oh, what if we went to the pool and they say now males have to wear shirts at the pool? We're gonna go crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Man.
Yes.
And it's crazy because, like you said, it's when we don't. I feel like, man, we don't have. There's a lot of women rights that get. It's actually showing me there's a lot of women rights that get abused, because I can't even imagine if it was males being told this is a big. It's a sensitive subject. I mean, like you said, it's like males being told. It's really like being told what to do with your body, literally, being told how you can't put a tattoo in your skin, which they do in school. I mean, they did it for once, like in school, you know, it's sensibly, but it's like, it's your body. Now, and things like this really open up a bigger discussion, and it's sad, and it's very painful, and it's hurtful, because you're like, even the protests and everything, you know, people protest and, you know, go, and then they try to go against it, but then it's all going to deaf ears. Because, you know, I was thinking about it the other day, because I saw it like on Facebook, people are posting in different places, which is great, but they're going to, like, you know, to these official buildings and stuff, and I was thinking, like, these people in these buildings, are they even paying attention to this? Are they, you know, we have to do more of this, and I do like that I see a lot of men actually supporting it now, because, you know, you would see a lot of, you know, you see a lot of women talking about this stuff, but this time in year, I do see a lot of men that are, you know, being, you know, fighting for this too. So I'm wondering who's making this decision. Like you said, maybe it's the you know, the older people in Supreme Court, these old rules that need to be revised, you know. So it's crazy, because if they can do this, what's next?
Exactly. That's the big talking point right now. Well, I live in a state where abortion is protected regardless, so people in my state don't have to worry about this decision. But I know there's a lot of people in many states who are threatened by this decision because their state government does not allow abortions to happen. And if I feel for those people, it sucks because there's certain situations where you want it, you have to, or like it's like accidents happen, situations happen, things happen, and sometimes and you have to take the option to do it. But now some of them won't have an easy choice to do it. It'll be much harder for them now than it ever used to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, here in Texas, that's the problem. Like,
Yeah.
they say in 6 weeks at most.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I was talking to my mom about this, and this was actually the first time I realized that she actually mentioned that I was almost aborted at the time, and then she was explaining why. Now I get to understand it. Like, so it's like, wow. So if that was the case, it's it was her decision, but for other reasons. She opened up a side. She was playing devil's advocate and stuff like that. But I just don't think there's room for like you said, for all these people to be making judgments on people's life.
Yeah.
It's very sad. It's very sad because as a society, as we grow, a lot of things happen, man. Human being can be very, very, atrocious. They can be crazy. Human beings are just, they can be a spark, and we're just a species it's an unpredictable species.
Yeah.
Like they talk about, rape. I mean, a lot of things that happen that you never expect to happen to women. Will happen these days from the most people that you never expected to come from, and then for you to be the one to tell the person that no, they have to keep this memory of this pain that went through their lives. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah.
So I just hope we come to I hope people keep pushing for for this to change, and all this protest works. Somebody will hear. We gotta keep fighting. You gotta keep fighting. There's somebody will listen, and then things will change. So.
Yeah, because most of the time it's the age-old battle between with the government, where it's between freedom and control. Like, where's the balance? So I guess that's the thing that I was just making people upset.
Yeah, it's a lot of things like that. When the government comes in, it's like they always have to have a say in everything they do. That's why right now in crypto they're slowly coming in there. I saw the price of crypto has been changing.
Oh yes.
There's a lot of things going on right now. I just think because Uncle Sam is slowly creeping in. So
what do you think about crypto?
I see the what's it called, interest in it. It's something that I don't think I'm going to get into probably way later, which may be a bad thing, maybe a good thing, but at the same time, at my age, I don't feel like it's something that's that important. I mean, you want to get into it early, but at the same time, whether or not it is successful and will be the next big thing, I don't, because the main thing for me is that since I have not educated myself on it, I just don't know what's the biggest interest in it. Because I still see the U.S. dollar or any physical-ish currency as a more influential system than any crypto right now. But whatever happens to it, at the end of the day, good for everyone who was in the beginning, because right now, joining right now is prone to many scams right now. Also, what's happening right now is also, like, we had Vuva coin this year. It completely crashed. So many people lost like all their life savings. So it's a very volatile thing to do this early on, but at the same time, the lucky ones are thriving off the explosion on crypto and Bitcoin, all these cryptocurrencies. So while many are failing and many are losing everything, others are succeeding. So as much as it is going to be the next big thing or not, just the risk of it, completely collapsing and you losing everything and or getting scammed is too much for me. But it's something that I would be interested in doing partially in the near future.
Yeah, that's what I was talking to him about that when they were saying that it's gonna replace the dollar. I was like, the United States,
No.
they love their dollar.
It cannot.
I mean, it. I see, like, I feel like that's also part of the whole entire idea of crypto's the next big thing, because to me, the fact that they're saying it's gonna replace the dollar is you use dollars to buy crypto. So how are you replacing something
Yeah.
that you need to buy it? You know?
Yes.
So that's what I was like. I don't know, because for it to actually happen, you would have to work for crypto instead of work for the dollar, then buy crypto. They'd have to have whole entire companies that say, okay, we're not paying you in dollars, we'll pay you in crypto.
Yeah.
But I mean, and like he said, the government's already looking at it, and they're gonna figure out a way to, they're still gonna make sure the dollar is more powerful than crypto. So I mean, crypto's interesting, but it, like he said, there's a lot of money to be made in crypto. So I don't say like, oh, that's a stupid thing.
Yeah.
People have become, like you said, people are becoming millionaires, billionaires off of crypto. Some people are losing, like you said. I feel like the big .com thing that happened in the 2000s. I feel the same
That's
thing.
exactly how it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's like that. And
Every new technology has its moment
Mhm.
of volatility, and it's the people who come in early who are the ones who are most likely to either succeed the most or succeed the least, and it's the ones who come later who have to take the breadcrumbs left by the early competitors who succeeded. Because most of the biggest technology companies today were around during the .com bubble, like Amazon and Google, and all those other ones. But they were just lucky enough to succeed and not crash during the .com bubble like many other ones did, and that's why they're so big today. So the same thing with Bitcoin, in my opinion. You just have to be lucky enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucky, and also probably do some good research and understanding how the actual system works, because like you guys also saying with the bubble, the internet bubble, the .com bubble, people really did not even know what it would end up becoming. They just say, oh, the internet is going to be the real deal, but what does the internet do?
Yeah.
They didn't know that people will be going on Google, people will be going on Amazon, people will be those companies that succeeded. They didn't know that would end up being a thing. So I mean, we just gotta wait. With time, everything changes. I'm in the same boat too. I had my situation when I went I went splurging, just spending every dollar I have, and I also have some guilt. Like, am I late to this? Am I late to the game? What am I doing? And this, all these acronyms are being thrown at you: NFT, crypto, all this, and then you're like, man, giving every dollar. Then next day it crumbles, and you see everybody online, buy it or lose it. I'm like, oh my God, everybody's a stock exchange now. So it's like, so. I came to a point to a realization. I was like, maybe it's not for me.
Yeah.
Somebody's out there's gonna be successful with it, man. I just, if it didn't happen for me, it didn't happen. I didn't catch it. So it is what it is.
Yes.
So we just gotta. But it reminds me of how I meant to say it, like when you say the dollar, the US dollar.
Yeah.
When you gave a good example. We use money to get crypto. It reminds me of. Like vegans telling you should stop eating meat, but then eat vegetables to be able to get everything else. So you can't really. It's the ecosystem. That's such is life. Certain things. I have no way against. People. People. That's why we do this podcast. Everybody can choose their own lane. It's interesting, but there's an ecosystem. Eat man. I mean, what they say, man eat world, whatever. So. It's just an ecosystem, like animals eat this and we eat animals, and the rain, just like the rain rains and the grass grows. It's just a whole cycle, it's just certain things are just the way they are. But it's interesting how things work.
Yeah, I'm tired of those forex traders, man.
Oh.
DMing me, you trying to make millions of dollars?
Yeah, that's super annoying.
How good can you be to trying to make somebody else a millionaire?
I know.
Hey, the message.
Yeah.
Hey, you want $1 million? I'll put $300,000 in your account right now.
All I have to do is pay me $300, and I'll show you how. But crypto is interesting to me. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like there's gonna be a Jeff Bezos of crypto. There's gonna be that one guy who just finds out what to do with it and just creates some whole new type of wave with it, like he did with Amazon. So I just feel like if Me, I'm not. I'm not the insider, so if I find out about it, it's already too late for me.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
those people, like my brother, like Meech, he was in crypto like 2008
Yeah,
when
man.
nobody knew what it
Nobody knew what
was.
it was.
So that's when it was like, okay. But now I'm like, everyone on the street knows about it. So I mean, I'm kind of late now with them. But I feel that.
Mhm.
It's like it's the street currency.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about it but us, you know. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you said it right. You know, if everybody else knows about it, you just late to the game. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
it is what it is. We just wait for the next, the next bubble.
Yeah.
One of these bubbles is gonna work sometime for us,
Yeah.
you know. So it is what it is. How you feel about the weather here, man? I forgot to ask you.
Oh yeah.
Coming from Maryland, it's the heat.
Oh yeah, it's the first thing I felt when coming here.
Yeah,
The dryness of the atmosphere here.
yeah,
Obviously, at first it was hard to adjust to, but I was quick to adjust to it, unlike many others,
Yeah.
I think. Because obviously I'm wearing a hoodie right now.
I was about to say.
Yeah. I am not going to give up. I will move here one day, I think, eventually. And the day I do move here, I'm never going to give up hoodies. I'm going to wear hoodies regardless.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying the weather, and kind of. It's something that I don't hate, but at the same time, I do like my cold winters and falls. It's something that is going to be such a hard thing to leave behind coming here. But then again, I don't really want to, because the North U.S., as much as I like the weather and as much as I like the urban, how the cities are built up there, opposed to the Sun Belt. At the same time, there's something about the way that cities down here are built that I do prefer in some way, even though they're not as reliable as something in New England. But the weather is that basically. No.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram post. You said I'm still wearing a hoodie in
Yes,
Texas.
I
In
was.
Yeah, people still wear hoodies.
Mm-hmm. This heat wave right now in the south, throughout the south, all the way from California to Georgia or something like that, and all across it's like breaking records in every single county basically. But I'm still out here wearing hoodies, and I would wear more hoodies if I bought some more. I'd never stop.
Yeah. So what do you think about the difference between here in the north, like regarding to like, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, like how the streets are different and stuff like that, because I grew up in Maryland, so I mean, I'm very much, and I know I talked to you, but you said you're into like guns a little bit, but like, what do you feel like? Is there like even like the feeling like, is the police presence different than Maryland? Do you feel like you're more likely to get pulled over in Maryland, or is here? Do you feel more likely? Like, what is what are your thoughts on that?
When it comes to the differences between Sunbelt and North, I feel like the main difference is either in both weather and urban planning. So obviously I touched on weather a lot. It's a lot drier down here. But of course, if you go more towards the Gulf, then it's more humid because it's very swampy. And then when it comes to how the salad are built, that's the main thing I noticed a lot, because I spend a lot of time on Google Maps, as you probably know, because my mom tells everyone. I like looking at random cities whenever I get the chance to. I used to do it all the time, even in school back in the days when I had iPads in school. And I would look at how cities are built. I would look at the intricacies and how everything works and is built, and how it all works together. And I got into civics a lot. And the main thing you learn about the differences is that because the North is a lot older than down here, many of the cities are built for everyone. The cities are smaller, especially downtown is smaller, the streets are smaller, the buildings are a lot smaller and lower to the ground, not skyscrapers like you see here a lot. And the houses are a lot in ways either they're made out of wood most of the time. Very wooden, very what's it called? I want to say unstable because they are not built well in my opinion, but they have a charm to them. They're smaller than down here. They have basements, and this is, in my opinion, in ways better public transportation, which is a big thing for me. Down here, because everything was everything down, because everyone started flocking down south during the mid 20th century, because everyone got a car and everyone wants to escape the cold bitterness of the north. So everyone came down here to the Sun Belt, and all the cities are built mostly for the car. The streets here are a lot bigger. You have a lot more avenues with 6 and 7 and 8 lanes. The highways are 12-lane highways that cut through half the city. And in a way, it's not terrible, but at the same time, it's not that beneficial civically for people, because in this environment you're kind of forced to drive a car. You don't have the option to walk or take public transportation really, because it's not that good compared to other cities in the north or in Europe, which is not that bad of a thing. But at the same time, when you're thinking about it ecologically and economically even, it is beneficial to have other modes for people to get around the city other than just driving down these huge boulevards. And that's the main difference I realized. The cities are just super huge, and that's mainly because so much of the land down here is taken over by parking lots and streets. You have these huge stores and huge houses and huge towers, and in a way I like that a lot. But it's because sometimes, especially we're driving around all over Dallas today with my mom and your mom. And there's some areas that look very nice. We went to Coppell, we went to North Irving, we were in Grapevine, and those areas, they manage it well. They make it look nice at least. But some areas you can tell that it would be a lot more beneficial if they were just built for everyone and not just the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy you mentioned the public transportation. I've never been on the bus in Texas. And I've been on the bus in Maryland. Maryland has great public transportation.
Yes.
You like he was telling me today, like, you don't need a car in Maryland. Yeah, it's you can have one, but you can take the bus and the train to work every single day and live like normally. Like here, you don't have a car, you can't go anywhere.
Exactly.
I don't even know if we have a bus stop near our house.
Why is that though? Why do they build Texas? Yeah, I get what you're saying, but why is that? Why do they cater more to? It's widespread, I get it, but isn't it in economical reasons?
There's two primary reasons I normally go off into. There's many other reasons too, but the two major ones is because when these cities were growing fast, it was at the peak of the car era, the 1950s and 60s and stuff. And everyone had a car, and everyone wanted to drive these new fancy driving vehicles that, oh my gosh, I can get here to here without taking public transportation. That's crazy. So, they were fascinated by this. So they were like, let's build cities that appeal to this new technology that we have now. And we will get the nicest, fanciest cars and, drive them around the city. So that's why many cities down here, which grew during the car era, all catered towards cars, where in the north, they were built before the car, back in the 18 and 1700s. So they were very community-driven. So they were much more compact, much more focused on, everyone, because there was nothing really else to do. And another reason is because it was, and well, not a reason, but another thing that was very prominent is it connected the suburbs to downtown, because downtown at the time was still very the hub of anyone's job. Most people worked downtown back then. So for people who were moving to suburbs, because suburbs was also a new thing at the time, people wanted to live in these big houses outside the city because it was better than living in those tiny, terrible apartments full of all the other colors, you don't want to separate them from all the dark skins, So they would move out to the suburbs. They would white flight. They would move to suburbs and other communities outside the main city. And then they had to build these huge roads to cater for all these new cars that were driving downtown. So that's where we get these highways from, in all over the West Coast and down south. You have these huge highways that connect suburbs to downtown for this reason, because it was for all these cars that were moving downtown. And the main problem right now, even in the north, is that because everyone was working downtown, there's not enough connections suburb to suburb, because nowadays most jobs are suburbs. People don't go downtown that much anymore. My entire time here, I've probably been downtown twice. So there's not enough connection downtown to downtown, especially public transportation. Here in Dallas, the DART, which is the Dallas tram thing
system,
it only connects the airport and downtown, and it goes through suburbs, but there's no suburb to suburb. If you're trying to get from Carrollton down to Irving, there's not an easy way to do that. And if you were trying to get to Plano, to what's it?
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, there's no way without taking the car. So that's another thing. So it's mainly because they were built around the cars and suburbs.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if it's economically driven, because I was also wondering if is there. I feel like maybe there's also a majority of people who could, because it's this way. There's a lot of people in these areas, like the metropolitan areas, like in the DC areas, that can't even afford a car. Because of that, and then they just put them, they push them in that that area. Baltimore, I can think of. But I mean, I guess it's a product of environment. It just becomes that, like you said. So they just say, you know what, we don't need cars because everything, the public transportation is good. But I've looked at that too, because sometimes you just want to, just like you said, you want to go downtown and just visit. But the funny thing about it, when you speak of downtown, have you ever thought how expensive it is to live downtown? If you don't want to drive a car, you have to pay the price, especially in places like this. And I think you should check. That's one thing you guys should check out, like downtown Dallas. I know you guys went to the place you went today. I can't remember, but it's not really. You need to really go like downtown Dallas.
I want to go downtown
like,
so bad.
Like the I don't know if it's too safe. Deep Ellum. You wanna go in bright daylight.
Broad daylight. Yeah. Deep Ellum used to be a nice arts district where it was like, upcoming artists, like painting art, and like people who are just into like fashion. But over the years, I don't know what happened. It's not even as safe as it used to be. You want to stay in the north area of Dallas. Now there's like shootings in Deep Ellum. Like it used to be like they'll close the streets and people just walk on the street. But now it's just gone. COVID is just turning people crazy. But and it's funny you said that because if you look at the way that it's built, you see how Fort Worth and Dallas are surrounding DFW. I was talking to him about that the other day. How our whole city area kind of surrounds DFW, but they did that recently. Well, not recently, but more recent than Love, because Love is was the main airport of Dallas. But it's pretty interesting how they built this city. It's very weird.
Just if I were in any position of power, the main thing for me would just be more investment in downtown and public transportation and rezoning, because the big issue for me is that I feel like our cities care too much about single family housing. The main thing that would most beneficial would be multifamily or condominiums or apartments or any kind of like a connected building, because it allows more people. And it's cheaper normally if you have enough. If you build enough of them, it becomes cheaper, and it provides more of a community aspect, because you can build stores on the first floor. It becomes easier to shop. It becomes easier to connect with friends and family and anyone who lives with you. Than living in these huge suburbs with their little fenced-in houses, separated with miles of yard space. It's less community-driven, and the nearest store to you is like a 15-minute drive. Then you have to drive, 5 minutes to the nearest Kroger's or Walmart. So it's more beneficial to have cities with good public transportation and zoning and stuff like that. Finance your cities in influential ways. Instead of financing these new highway expansions, finance more train cars with newer features, and bigger buses with nice, were more green and energy efficient, and more bus stops and stuff like that. Stuff that would be more beneficial to the community, because while these highways will be, the highway expansions, they might help in the short term. In the long term, will just create more traffic because more people will end up driving cars. So, you want to finance things that would be more beneficial in the long term, as a mayor or governor or anything that you are.
Yeah. We need you as a governor here.
Yes.
But yeah, it's very interesting points. Very, very interesting points, and I 100% agree with what you were saying. And it's almost like, that's why I was asking, what really causes this, because if you see how Texas is widespread, everything is widespread, but they look like the infrastructure appears to be just mainly, like you said, highways, roads. Ever since there's a lot of highways they've been building since I moved here. And I moved here like 2014.
Oh, yes.
They're still doing construction on the same road since I've been here. And the most times it's a toll road. They're building a toll road so we can pay more and stuff. You see, that's one thing I noticed too. Is a lot of
Houston,
toll roads.
And Houston is like building like beltway after beltway after beltway. Like they have like 3 beltways now. I think they're building a 4th one, or maybe they're building a 3rd one. They're expanding like crazy and just building more highway and highway, while I feel like they should be trying to be more centralized instead of taking over the whole state. Houston should focus on just building on what they have more economically efficiently, instead of just building more streets and roads. Like what are they appealing to? It's not that efficient.
Yeah.
I would move to Austin if I would move from here.
Mm-hmm.
I like Austin a lot.
Oh, yeah,
Austin's really nice. It gives me Cali vibes, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very much definitely a younger city than here. Not like in terms of how old it is, but like the people there are more, they're more younger people, and it's just it's a really nice place.
You need to move now.
I think
now, because now it's the prices is going up after Elon came.
I think the reason it feels like Cali is because that's where most Californians are going right now, because people are leaving that state, man.
That's all they know. That's the Texas they know. That's close to how they can,
Yes.
If you notice, that's one thing I see here. And anytime you meet somebody here, it's like, oh, I'm from Cali. I'm from Cali.
Yes.
I'm from Cali. I'm from Cali. I say, oh
everyone's leaving California.
Everybody's from California.
The state's becoming. They need the better management, honestly.
What's going on with Cali? Because I mean, I went to LA. I didn't like it that much. I didn't really like LA. I mean, because I went with that notion of Hollywood. So when I got there, I was like, what's the big deal? It's overrated.
I hate LA so much. It's the definition of urban sprawl, and I hate it. It's so, like, if you look from an aerial view, it's so it's miles of just houses and avenues. There's nothing there to see except for the Hollywood. There's nothing to see in Los Angeles.
I didn't like LA.
I think it's like you say, it used to be Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's Hollywood.
Yes. Oh, that place has gotten ghetto. But
Yeah.
So it's
And I always say I actually want to go to San Francisco. I want to see San Francisco, San Diego, Sacramento. I want to see those places because I don't want to say all of Cali sucks.
Cali is a good place,
But
it's mainly the cities are not that good anymore, and it's getting much more expensive than they used to be, of course, mainly because of land issues, and also water and the environment, earthquakes, the wildfires. It's just so much turmoil going on in that state right now that people just don't want to be there no more, especially in the cities and the coast. Right now, I feel like the best place in California is the Central Valley or North California, but the entire state right now is going through a bad dark time.
Yeah, I get the idea. Like you said, it's a good state, but I get what they wanted it to be, because I was reading somewhere where like how they started. It's all over the place. I mean, it's all over online. They really started as a place, like an elite place for, like, that's why it was called Hollywood for actors, because in the time, actors were the most prestigious people. There were singers and rappers and all these other entertainers, but acting was the thing to be. That's how you were famous back when only they could afford housing in there and stuff. That's why they were buying houses on the rocks, because it was even up to this day it's expensive to get a house built on a mountain, because you got the excavation and stuff.
Yeah.
But then back then it wasn't unheard of. The Elvis Presleys were not even, until they got to there. Those were the first people to start moving there, were non-actors. But then ever since, from there everything just went down the road. Now anybody can move, to, and they always, their governor is always on some. I don't know if it's still the same governor.
I know it's Gavin Newsom.
He always has some controversies.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if he's even still.
I just know Cali is a place that allows everything.
Oh yeah.
$15 minimum wage.
Oh, yeah.
They'll give you all these benefits if you have. If I had my Tesla in Cali, they'll probably buy me a house.
Yeah.
But I just know them as like a very progressive, very
It's
nice,
very progressive. Yeah.
yeah, very progressive place, and I don't have a problem with that. I heard the minimum wage thing kind of did ruin their economy a little bit, but I mean, such is life.
What can you buy though with that $15 in college?
That's the problem.
It's soda.
That's the thing. That's the thing. If that's actually a good point. Gas prices right now are crazy, and if you had more public transportation, you could avoid that. Honestly,
Exactly.
I think that would be so beneficial, because like in Europeans, it's high in Europe right now too, but you don't see Europeans complaining about it that much, because they have good public transportation and walkability, so they don't have to drive.
Yeah.
So like it's better, and the prices right now are crazy though. Yeah.
I actually love the whole concept of I think UK left, but the whole EU system with the whole entire borderless, as long as you show you're a EU citizen, you can go in. Like if I went, I just show my passport, I came in UK and whatever. But I like that whole. I wish we could do that in the North America, but U.S. and Canada and Mexico would never allow it.
Or maybe U.S. and Canada, but definitely not Mexico.
Well, you can never say never. When we get a younger and maybe an open-minded president one day.
Oh yeah.
He'll say open the borders.
Open all the borders. We all won.
Yeah.
I would with everything happening these days, man. I don't know, man. We never know.
Definitely
That'll be
Canada.
dangerous.
That'll be dangerous.
The main thing about the America is just a whole continent. Is Latin America right now is just don't know what's going on down there. It's
Don't know.
so much crime, violence, and gangs, and I wish there should be a way for us in the North, Canada and the U.S. as the most powerful nations on this continent to help the Latin American countries, because they are kind of struggling right now, and I feel like as a continent we should help out our fellow Latin allies down south.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues going on, and it's kind of just swept under the rug. They don't really pay attention, like you said, because even Mexico, which is kind of seen as like a higher, more than like the Central American and South American, but there's still a lot of corruption in Mexico that you'll be like, this happens in 2022. Like, I've heard stories. My friends, they say, oh yeah, you go to Mexico and the cop will pull you over if he sees your car is a little expensive and ask you to pay him. I'm like, happens in this year, 2022? That's crazy.
I know, man.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think that's a good point too, because I wonder if the United States is to blame for this, because they are so big, just the country, because all these other countries, like you say Europe, the European way, all these countries are like, they're all together, but America is one of the only ones that United States stands out. They're not unified. America stands out as just its own nation than everybody else. Especially like the Canada.
About them.
Canada, we at a point we should really have that's a very good point. We should have a very good relationship with Canada.
Yeah, we used to have a good connection with all of our countries in Latin America. If you know the Truman Doctrine, we were basically the U.S. telling Europeans to not mess with our Latin American friends. It's our continent. Stay back and whatever else you want to do, just stay away from Latin America. But over the past century, I feel like more and more we're just caring less and less about the rest of our continent friends, with the exception of being Canada, because they're so similar to us. But we're just Mexico, screw them, and Latin America, screw them, especially with Donald Trump. He didn't help things with our Mexican allyship. But we definitely need to do more towards helping everyone in our continent, because we all are one continent. We have a very shared, similar colonial history.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you said it, that we're not unified, because it's funny that I guess I understand, because even as a country we're not unified.
Oh,
So
yes.
it'll be hard
True.
to have us unified with other countries, because it's completely different. We still had that little south and north,
Oh, yes, definitely.
diversity. Even it's just so much. It's a melting pot, like everyone says.
Mhm.
It's just interesting.
I think the problem started way back then, back when the division started, like putting lines. Say, okay, I guess that's what colonization was.
Yeah.
Now. See, history makes sense to me now. But so when they were saying, okay, no, this is our land, so we're gonna draw a line that looks like this. Oh, so just that line.
Yeah.
Oh, let's call it a border. You guys are not part of us. Somebody else claims this place. This is our part, and now we're all divided. Then now now within that territory, there's classism. The rich, the poor. There's
Mhm.
race, black, yeah. So all that is like we always divided. That line in between is a
know.
problem.
Yeah.
And then everybody has to be better than the other, and that's I
Mhm.
think that's what's going on even with China and the
Mhm.
U.S. right now. With China and everybody, all the big the big countries,
Superpowers and stuff,
China, Russia, United States, England. I mean
Mhm.
UK. The public get mad,
Yeah.
upset because a lot of people get that mistaken too between England, UK.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
how that
Yeah.
goes. But it's interesting, man.
It's funny you say that about the borders too, because it's like when you think about it, it's 50 states. That's a lot of
I know.
states. Like if you look at Canada, I think they have like 4 or 5 provinces.
Yeah, and then a bunch of territories.
Yeah, and a bunch of territory. We have 50 states. Why can't we just, I mean, it's too late now, but have some of these states just need to merge together and just
Uh-huh.
be one place. Like that's a lot of diversity.
I mean, look, Texas is bigger than my country.
Oh yeah, Texas is huge, man. I feel like Texas needs to divide up, honestly. Or
It's bigger than my country. It's bigger than Zimbabwe.
yeah.
It takes you 18 hours to get to the next state, to get to California. That's crazy. That's insane. You're driving 18 plus hours in the same state.
Mm.
And out west is nothing.
Oh,
It's just a
West
dry land.
yes.
Yeah.
I feel like either that or separate the states, at least politically at least.
Mhm.
But because at the same time, the U.S. does have territories.
Yeah.
And like Puerto
Puerto
Rico
Rico.
and Guam, I feel like they deserve representation in statehood. It's even though it would make the flag look ugly, adding more stars. 'Cause I like the flag right now,
Yeah,
but I want DC to all those places to have more representation as becoming states than they do now, or at least merge into other states or something. I don't know. DC could merge into Maryland for all I care.
Yeah, because the Puerto Rico story is very, very. It's upsetting. It's very, they really do need to be just. It's a state. It's a
Yes.
51st state, because
Mhm.
they have all these different. I was looking at passports today, and it's all these rules, and then it says if you're in Puerto Rico, this. I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, man, just come on. And then, like you said, DC. How is it? Is it different? If you're born in DC, what happens?
I don't know. You can't. I think you can't vote for president, and you can't vote in the. You can't basically vote for
Mhm.
any Congress
Yeah.
member or president. You get. I think you probably do get a representative or something. I don't know, but you don't get. It's kind of like similar to Puerto Rico.
Puerto
'cause
Rico, right?
It's a federal district.
Yeah.
It's not a state, so it's the rules are very different in DC. You don't get no representation at all, basically, in Congress. So I feel like that's the main thing, because I want to live in DC. I love DC. It's a beautiful city. The architecture is amazing, but living in DC, you really lose a lot of the rights and the representation you do as a state dweller. Because you might live in a nice-ish city, you don't get any say in how your government works, even though you're literally living where the government is. It's crazy.
So what is it categorized as?
It's a federal district.
Federal
It's,
district.
Yeah, just
What's another federal district?
Uh,
in DC?
it's another one could be. There's none in the U.S., but something similar ones, because I know how European cities do this. Cities are separated from the rest of the state. So they get their own votes and representation compared to the state or county around them or whatever they call them in their country, which I think they should do more here because cities are different from everyone else. People in Dallas have a different opinion than people in Abilene, but that's what they do a lot. They divide the cities away from the rest of the thing, but DC is extra because you don't get any representation.
So I think from you saying that, was the original idea being a federal district, it was a government place.
Because
We
they
were just supposed to have government things going
People
on.
weren't
but then
supposed to live there.
People started living there. Okay. I never thought about it this way. I just used to be confused, like, hey, DC, Maryland, this is big, this is a state. But wow, I had no idea. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, I like DC is. There was a city that was kind of accidentally formed in a way. It was just supposed to be government buildings and government houses, and then other than that, everyone else would live in Maryland or Virginia. But then, for some reason, I guess people started flocking to DC to live there and started building houses, and communities formed, and eventually got to the point now where it's a full-blown city basically. So now, since people live there, people there want representation like they do in anywhere else in the nation. So people are very annoyed that they are left out of many of the decisions made in government.
They even have a lot of national teams.
Yeah, the Redskins and the
Redskins,
Capitals, the
Washington Wizards.
Wizards.
Are they still called the Wizards?
Yeah, the Wizards.
Okay. I thought they changed their name.
The
Redskins.
Oh, the Redskins.
Redskins.
Oh, yeah.
Football team right now.
Washington football.
We gotta correct that before we don't wanna get canceled on here.
Man.
Yeah, and Puerto Rico's the same. They're a territory.
Yeah.
So they
Washington Commandos. That's their new name.
Yeah,
that's their name?
the Commanders.
Commandos, yeah.
It's a cool name, but I miss Redskins.
Have you seen the jerseys?
Oh, man.
Look like a kindergarten man.
Really? I haven't seen them.
Me neither.
I mean, some people like them.
It's preference, I guess. But the U.S. has a lot of territories, and they had more, but, because we kind of are not very keen on colonialism for obvious reasons, we kind of gave them away. We owned the Philippines and Cuba for a time, but we gave them back eventually to their people, which it would have been interesting to have an American colony as big as the Philippines, but that's what at the end of the day, they do deserve their own country.
They did that to Japan too, right?
They controlled Japan for a while.
It, right?
After World War II.
Yeah. They didn't colonize, but they just controlled it.
So after all, this history is real.
Yeah.
I thought they were just brainwashing us in school.
We all know enough about our territories, even though they are important. And they are American citizens at the end of the day, too. And they deserve as much rights and representation as we do as Americans living on the continental U.S. Even though they are miles away, at the end of the day, if they are considered Americans, they should be treated as Americans.
Yeah, I've never understood that. Like, what benefit do they get being territories?
Yeah.
Like,
nothing.
It's just using them to.
It's just you get an American passport. That's all.
But I know one they didn't make it territory. Hawaii.
Oh yeah, Hawaii.
They said this one would take.
Too much money being made there. They said, you can become a state.
They said, man, yeah, we we went to Hawaii, right? It was interesting. It was an experience. I loved it. I mean, I could see myself live there for a few periods of time, for a few months, because the lifestyle it gave me a feeling of how when I was, at least how I felt. I don't know how things are right now when I was back home. Time was paced out. It wasn't like here. It feels like everything is going so fast.
Yes.
But I was able to kind of slow down and then just kind of breathe and collect myself, think, eat fruit, enjoy the real water, and just like be around nice people. Just very traditional people.
Yes, this country is very diverse, and I like that about it.
Right.
It's very compared to Maine to Hawaii, Alaska to Florida, it's a very different. Everything is different. You can get from swampy marshes to cold mountains and peaks that's 1,000 feet up in the air to dry deserts to farmland, all that different what's it called, places. I don't know what the word is right now, but yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It was nice. It was Hawaii was very interesting. I see why a lot of older retirees go there, and it was a lot of old people there.
Oh yeah.
It was
I
either
bet.
old people or families with their children.
Oh yeah.
Not much of well, we went to Maui. We didn't go to Honolulu, so it wasn't much of the younger, 20s, 30s, more 40s, 50s, and you know. But it was nice. Hawaii. I didn't go on TikTok a single time. Like, I just enjoy. But then again, I can't say. I don't know. I would live there. But then I feel like maybe if I lived there, would it be too much? Like,
Yeah. When you live in a place, it's different.
It's different, yeah.
Yeah.
I would be like, is it too much for me? Like, am I not enjoying it anymore? It's you get for only the first week, first month maybe, and then you're like, okay, I'm tired of this. Let me go back. But I don't know. And I was saying, I was telling him I want to go to Wyoming or Utah. I want us to go to Utah or Wyoming.
Yeah. Because speaking of transportation, imagine in Hawaii. Public transportation is not there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's another thing. One thing I noticed too, right? I mean, I was gonna say technically it is the United States state. We can say that, but the natives are, or maybe we're in the tourist area, but they're not there. And it's like it's Americans from California. Most Californians just own a lot of business out there. So you just you in mini California. You just in another California that's nicely preserved, and because a lot of people, I'm from California. You rent a car, I'm from California. Owns a restaurant, the owner's from California. So I'm like, and then we were talking about the milk. We asking them where the food. Where do you get your food from? Oh yeah, our milk comes from California. So I was like, okay,
man.
So what comes from Hawaii? Maybe the fruit, the plants, but most of the stuff comes from California. Yeah. And it's an 8-hour flight within the water too.
I could not fly out the ocean, man. I did it once, and it was scary at first, very scary.
Hawaii, what's it called? But I will say their government is kind of trying. They do have a lot of stuff like where they're like, we're trying to preserve Hawaii. We're not trying to build on.
They're good at that compared to other states.
Yeah, they're very good at that. Like even they were saying like, if you ever want to start a business here, it is one of the hardest things to do because the permits, all that, they make it hard for you to become, a business owner there just because they don't want you to mess up the land. They're very good at preserving. I'll say that because even the road, it follows the land to get to to get from one place to another. We had to go around that mountain and through these roads.
No 12-lane highway can do it.
Yeah, but if you read their news, though, there's people who are trying to poke in there, and there's like, no,
there'll always be people.
Yeah, we don't want to mess this, because buying a 1-bedroom apartment, you talk about millions, which is good. That's how they gotta do it, So, it was another state that comes off weird to me. That's a little bit off. Is I might even get this wrong. Pennsylvania, because you always think Philly is a state. I don't know, because the only thing I think about is. Sometimes I get surprised. Oh, Philly, isn't it PA?
Oh yeah, dude.
It doesn't. It overpowers.
Same thing with New York.
I was just about to say that. New York, that has because people will be like, I hate New York. I don't like the city. I'm like, I've heard that New York, the state, has some really nice suburbs, because the people outskirts. Outskirts. People who don't like the city, they automatically hate the whole state. And I'm like, you're talking about New York City, but. New York has suburbs. They have like a whole community, like everything. It's not as expensive to live in New York compared to New York City.
Yeah.
Like those are two different things. So it's funny. You literally.
Oh yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, it's funny. The whites are big talking, even in within the state, because, like I was saying earlier, kind of how we should separate cities from the state. Like they do in Europe. The main reason is because these cities have a higher population and a lot of power over the rest of the state. So the decisions that are made in this state sometimes affect the entire state, and they can negatively impact the rest of the state. There's tons of laws and stuff that favor New York City, but people in the rest of the state, Rochester and Buffalo, they are negatively impacted by these laws and legislations because that's not the same as New York City. It's completely different. So when you divide the cities from the rest of the state, it it's more beneficial for everyone because the people in the city get what they want, and the people everywhere else get what they want.
Yeah, that's all.
Do you like New York, or do you like? What do you feel about the city?
The city, I like. It's one of my favorite cities, honestly, in the nation because it's such a very everyone, like I was saying, everyone focused city. You know, the public transportation is amazing. You can walk everywhere. You can the infrastructure and the buildings, they look all fantastic for the most part. If you're going to like areas, especially, and that's something that I want to live in New England in the Northeast. But
Boston.
Boston, Washington, those places that are built very good and have very good infrastructure and transportation. But at the same time, there's a charm to places down here that I can also, I really love too. It's a very hard choice for me right now, and I know I'm years away from making that decision. But at the same time, I kind of wish I could just live in both places, honestly.
Yeah. Maybe, you know, you can be a millionaire, have 2 houses, you know, fly from one for a week. You're like, man, I'm tired of this. Let me go back to Texas.
I know, right?
Or you can just go to Miami.
Oh, man, Florida. Don't get me started.
Was that a good or a bad thing?
Bad. I don't like that state.
You don't?
For it's bad.
Political reasons or
everything reasons. It's not the weather, cities, the climate, the land itself. You know, it's literally sinking right now, I think. Or it's getting flooded actually because it's built so it's below sea level. So lots of things about Florida I don't like, and I would not live there, but I would love to visit. But it's one of those states where I'm like, why would you live there? I mean, it's a decent looking place, but it's hot, humid, it's small hurricanes every fall. Why would you want to get your house blown away every August and September? But Florida, I can never. Deep South, basically, I could never. I don't like the Deep South at all.
I feel that same way about Louisiana,
or
New Orleans. I'd like to visit, but I wouldn't live there.
New Orleans, especially since the city has. It's a very neglected city right now. It's not getting the funding it needs for anything.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's true. I never thought about it.
There's a lot of that in this country. I like this country a lot. I'm one of the few people because my family, especially my brother, are very Africa proud, and I do like Africa, but at the same time, unlike many people in my family, I think I am very patriotic towards America. I love it here, and I would never live anywhere else, in my opinion. I probably would stay my entire life as an American citizen. I don't see myself moving to Europe or Canada or anywhere else, Australia. I would visit those places, but I would always be an American at heart. But even though I love America so much, there's so much I wish I could change, because as much as this place is fantastic, I see so many issues and so much promise for our everything, and we don't do a good job at managing it anymore. We never put money in the right things. We never invest in the right things. We used to have the best train network in the world. But now we have these slow trains that never get anywhere, while you have Asia and Europe with hyperspeed trains that can get across the entire continent in hours. You know, imagine if you get from here to the Northeast in like 2 hours, which you can't do if you build a hypersonic train. But no one's funding that, you know. Instead, we want to fund the military, we want to fund these corporations who are not doing anything for people, for making life easier for us civilians and lower income people than them. So, you know, if we just put money in the right things, this nation would be so much better, and I would feel so happy as someone who loves this nation a lot and wants to see it thrive as much as possible. Just have the funding it needs to, like I said with New Orleans, you know, they're not funding that city, and that's a lot of cities right now, especially in the Rust Belt, Detroit and Michigan, and you know, north the Great Lakes area. It's being neglected so hard right now, and they're not funding the correct things that would help people a lot, and that's my main issue right now with this country.
Elon, you know, he's trying to do a boring thing. He's not doing trains, but the underground cars or underground tunnels.
Oh, that thing is a joke.
What do you mean?
At first it was a decent idea. but it's just a highway underground. It's a street full of Teslas, and there's still traffic down there. Like it was supposed to solve traffic, he said, and there's still traffic. It's just an underground highway. Elon Musk, I can see he has good ambitions, but the thing, he doesn't have a good way of doing them lots of the time, or he fails a lot, or just so many compromises to the point where it's not the same thing. He's a very guy, and very leader.
He's trying to do it. I feel like he's probably trying to do a lot of things.
Yes.
That any one individual, the ideas are like you said, he has great ideas, but just as an individual, you cannot accomplish all the stuff, you know. So your focus can only be on one thing. That's why you see, I think sometimes you'll be Tesla for so many years, then one day, then the next thing is SpaceX, because he has to devote his time to something. Just like with anything else, for you to get good results, you have to focus on just that one thing. You can't be just going back and forth. It just doesn't work that way. It's like you can't be a point guard and power forward at the same time. It just doesn't work. So I get what you mean by that. He has a lot going on, but I mean, the website is still on with the boring company, so maybe his children may move on to it. So I just don't know how you can solve the issue with traffic, because air is already populated and there's a lot of planes out there. There's drones, there's helicopters. So
sometimes I wish you could just
Amazon delivery.
Yeah, sometimes I wish you could just bulldoze in every city in this nation, just rebuild it perfectly. That's like if I destroy Dallas and the entire metropolitan area and just rebuild it in like they did back northeast, still have aspects, because there's still a charm to what is here. So keep some things, of course, but for the most part, just redo everything, because obviously people in the 20th century did not know better. I'm not like saying they should have known about the ozone layer and pollution and how bad cars are and building these interstates are, but at the same time, in hindsight, 2020 of course, but at the same time, we should be trying to do our best to they should have realized that in some ways we should be trying to make it work for everyone and not just for these new cars, because it's an issue, honestly, a huge issue for many people in this nation and in these cities that are built very car-centrically.
Do you think electric vehicles will ever become normalized?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You think so? That'll be the new norm?
It was everything, because we talk about how everything is trash at first. There was a point in time in the late 19th and early 20th century where diesel cars and gas cars were criticized. People said it was terrible, trash, it was garbage, and it was expensive at the time because it was new technology. There was not that much. So to get a car today, that would be like a couple $1,000 at the time. It was as much as a whole couple houses. It's the same thing with electric cars right now. The electric cars are expensive. They're not as good or reliable. There's not many places to charge them. But as more things, as we invest more in electric cars and make them more efficient and better, they will definitely reach the point of gas cars within the maybe end of the century, just like gas cars did.
California is taking initiative to be, I think by 2024 they won't be allowing any of their dealerships to sell gas cars. So they're going to require, so they're one of the states as dirty as we think they are.
Not supposed to California.
They're taking the first step. So they actually will stop selling out, and I'm sure a lot of states will still, because that's the only way you could move forward with it. It's funny when Elon was talking about this, one of his interviews, he said he was actually a little bit. We all think about Elon. He's not the only one doing electric cars, but he's just the biggest one. Because if you go to China, I'm pretty sure they're way far ahead of us. They just don't advertise it as much as we. They probably have batteries that last 1,000 miles and charge reliably. But because they have bullet trains like electric, and they go like a billion miles an hour. But
that's what Elon should build.
No, that's a story for another. But what I was gonna say is, he said one of the things that slowed him down on advancing even Tesla is because he focused more on trying to make it solar powered, because that would have been really way more affordable. Because if you see the very first Tesla was almost like a hybrid, it was solar, but then the sun just doesn't give you that much. Solar just doesn't give you that much power to drive a vehicle. Like
Yeah.
that. It's just impossible.
Mhm.
So because different weather changes when it rains and stuff, light it just doesn't work that way. But in a perfect world, that would be the most affordable, the best way to do
Yes.
it. But then
And then everyone lives in different places. Some
Yeah,
places don't get as much.
exactly.
Alaska gets like 6 months of
Yeah.
sun, and then it's just dark.
Yeah.
Or 6 hours, whatever it is.
So that's how they were advertising it at first, but they just know the battery is there for a reason.
Yeah.
The battery was just a game changer in a lot of things. Our cameras use batteries, everything is batteries, but just getting that battery to last for so long is where it is, because it's a lot of cells. Because I have a one wheel too, and they went through the same. It's funny, they went through the same thing that electric cars. They go through the same thing that electric cars go with. So their selling point is every year they release a larger mileage battery. The first one was like 5 miles, then the next one was 15 miles, and there was 20 miles, and now the latest one wheel goes for 32 miles on a charge. That's an advancement right there, and that's with lights and with all kind of stuff. It's electric, so it's like it's interesting how that plays. So
Yes.
yeah, I want to ask you something. To touch base on something. You mentioned you were born here, right?
Yeah, I was born
So
here.
you're American, okay? So you mentioned something very important that and I don't want to finish the podcast without touching base on that too, because it's interesting. You say something like how your parents or our parents, they always want to emphasize how they want Africa this, Africa that, but you and I can feel your patriotism towards America, which is a great thing, because that's why I asked if you're here. I mean, if you're born here, because it's a great thing. Just as you are too, because you're an your parents are African, but then you were born here, so you're really an American citizen. Not really, you are an American citizen. So so it's interesting to see that, whereas I mean, I'm not an American citizen by birth. So I was I came here when I was younger, but I've always noticed that too. Like it always was a challenge for me, because there's certain things that when I came here, I kind of lost translation. I lost my values and stuff, African values, whereas my parents really wanted me to still keep that.
Yeah.
And for a long time I didn't understand it, because I was just like, parents are just being parents and stuff. But I didn't understand it, because I also lived there for a long time. So there's a time, even up to here, there's that attachment, just like how you feel about the United States. So that's probably why in their eyes they see in Africa like United States. They've always, they probably won't live to see that, but in a perfect world, that's what they want. So it's interesting. When you mentioned that, I thought about that. I was like, just imagine a very successful Africa, where America is actually trying to be Africa. So that's kind of how they see it, Might happen, we might not live to see it, but so how my question to you is, how have you, I'm sure you still deal with that a lot, where your parents, there's an expectation, maybe not as much now, they just, you semi have younger parents.
Yeah.
At this time and age, you could say your parents are young. The generation is, so, but you have had to deal with that, and I can imagine when your brother was here, I found it interesting that he actually mentioned that he deals a lot with that. Not a lot, but he deals with that sometimes in school, where people kind of, you didn't look at it as being, is it they were mocking him or they were giving a hard time? He's comfortable with it, but he mentioned that it bothers him, because they say certain things that are just full of that are pretty much ignorance. They refer to Africa. Do you speak African? Do you do? And I feel like to a certain extent it offends him. He was saying it in a way where he was just expressing it, like it annoys me when people. But I think subconsciously it bothers him. So do you get a lot of that too, or do you even mention that you're half African, or your parents are African, or when you mention it, do you get that pushback or some of those insults like that? In most cases, I don't think it's insults, but it's a lot of ignorance.
Yes, it definitely is. I don't make a huge deal about my Africanness.
Yeah.
And when I do talk about it, the people I've told and people that know don't really not the same way Avery was describing it.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, because I'm a really dark humor, offensive humor type person.
Yeah.
So I'm the one who makes the jokes and stereotypes about Africa, and they are the ones who tag along. And it's something that's well known with me, with most of my friends, and from all races, that I'm the one who makes fun of everyone. I don't really care what race or ethnicity or gender
What gender it is, yeah.
anything. I don't care about that, your nationality. I'm still gonna make fun of you at the end of the day, as long as you can handle it. Because at the same time, I do know there's a lot of people, like maybe Avery. I'm not gonna assume that he is soft or sensitive, but there are people who, at least in some degree, who don't like it. They get annoyed, offended, or hurt by any stereotypes or offensive jokes to their culture, or where they came from, or what they identify as. So when it comes to that, I don't feel that way, and that's mainly because I am that way. I'm not like doing it with the intent to offend people, of course. I just don't care that much. Like with the N-word, I know that's a very controversial thing with a lot of people. At the end of the day, my opinion on it is just a word. I don't care who says it, as long as it's used in a non-offensive context. For me, lots of things, it just depends on the context of it. I don't care about many, many, many things, as long as the context is, in a positive light. And that's the same way with stereotypes and offensive jokes and humor and everything around that nature. If the context is light, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were talking about that today. We were saying nowadays it's scary. It's like now, like, they are sensitive. People are sensitive right now. It's a scary time right now. You will get canceled for anything, literally anything. And it's crazy because we were talking to my mom about it yesterday. Like, she was saying that she even notices it because now, growing up, and I was telling Lauren about this. Growing up, your family would tell you, "Oh, you're a little big. You're getting weight. But now, if you find that, if they find out, like the community finds out that you said that, you get on TikTok, you're canceled.
Yeah, PC culture. It's annoying.
PC culture.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's political correctness. You have to be, make sure you don't offend anyone at all, basically what it means. And I am not good at that. As I said, I make fun of everyone. And that includes anything from Black, Hispanic, and LGBTQ. And, I understand why people get offended by it. And I'm not going to say at the end of the day you shouldn't get offended by it. But at the same time, like, people really don't want you to say anything, it feels like nowadays. When I made my Twitter account, I still have Twitter. I never really use it because I feel like anything I say could be the next big thing, and my name is plastered all over the internet as the person who says this and hates this people. And like, I don't hate you. I don't feel anything towards that. And I don't want to have that negative connotation on my name just because I made a joke or an opinion that's slightly offensive to someone, and they twist it in a way that, in some ways, understandably, hurt them a lot. And, it becomes the next big hashtag canceled on Twitter. So I don't use Twitter a lot. And it's a very scary, it's a scary time to live in, to be someone who is controversial or offensive. Because, you can't talk about anything, anything you say can be scrutinized for the littlest things, it feels like.
Yeah, and it's scary to be a comedian because that's literally how they live, off of controversy and just being harsh and saying whatever, not unapologetic. But it's also crazy because at the same time, I say, it's a scary time, but honestly, I wouldn't really care if it got I mean, I get it, you're canceled, but you're gonna have fans who will love you no matter what. Exactly. It sucks that corporations will drop you. You're gonna be talked about, all this, but at the end of the day, it still is words. Like you said, at the end of the day, people are just saying, "Oh, he's canceled."
Yeah, And
am I really canceled?
yeah, and depending on how serious it is, it
Mm-hmm.
only is going to last a couple of weeks at best. It's not going to be career ending for the most part, for most people, depending on the cancellation. But you know, it is something stressful in the moment, and it is scary in the moment because you don't know what is going to happen. It's hard to deal with, especially as someone my age, or similar to my age, young Gen Z, especially 20s and teens. It's a scary time to, you know, use the internet because you don't know how to handle that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that. Like, as a younger person, do you guys even worry about that, or is it just like it's just part of life? Like, it's because it's that way. You guys don't even think about it. It's just live like that. Like, oh, I can't say some of these things. I can't do some of these
feel
things.
like for the most part, it is younger people who care, of course.
Mm.
You know, for the most part, I say 90% of cancellations happen from Gen Z or millennials. I don't see any boomers really out there trying to cancel someone for using the N-word.
They might be using it too.
So since so many people of my age, all the ones who are doing it, they don't care, and the people who do care, the people who are like me, who are like more edgy, don't care about being offensive or not trying to appeal to certain this X, Y, and Z. Those are the people who are the most concerned in a way about it, but they don't really care, of course.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Cancel culture is scary.
But I like my generation a lot. Like, in ways, it's this interesting generation. There's a huge misconception about many of our stereotypes, because I feel like most people don't realize when it begins and when it ends. Because I feel like everyone associates anyone born after 2005 as Gen Z. Well, Gen Z is like 95 to 2012. And, you know, right now we're in a different generation. You know, my baby brother Kai, he's a different generation than me and Avery. He's Generation Alpha. And, you know, my Avery, who was in the podcast last time, he's Gen Z, but at the very tail end of it. He's like the last fragments of Gen Z. And that's the end of our definition of our generation. You know, after that, everything else that happens is a definition of Gen Alpha and what they will grow up to be.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about Gen Alpha, but I thought it hasn't been really initiated, because I know it's going back to the A.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting that you say that. I heard I was listening to Jordan Haidt. He talks a lot about generations and stuff, and he's very versed into that. He does research into all that stuff, and he has some interesting theories on that. But he was saying, you know, yeah, Generation Alpha, and there hasn't really been this. It's not that many generations actually. You know,
Not
like
really.
you say. So you say 95 to 2012. You think that's
Gen Z.
Gen Z. Then before that, that's millennials.
Gen X.
Gen X.
Okay. So millennials were like
Gen Y, sorry. Gen X is the previous one. That's my parents' generation, Gen X.
You're Gen Y.
Yeah.
Let's say Gen Y was never existent. It just falls into
Millennial is a different term. It only came to fruition because Gen Y grew up at the turn of the millennium.
Yeah, that's why there's that mixture. There's that. It's a weird mix.
And some of them are interchangeable too, right? Because there's like the actual term for it, and then like a nickname for them, right?
Yes.
So okay, but what do you think about Gen Alpha? Do you think they're gonna be? Why'd you giggle? Don't know yet.
Yeah,
they're too young. Right?
The oldest ones right now are probably turning 10 this year, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Because as my generation, the oldest ones are going to be turning 30 in 2026, I think, which is crazy to think about. That many Gen Zers are now, you know, college age, working age. You know, like I said, some of my teachers are Gen Z. It's to that point where Gen Z is now, you know, having some actual impact in the world. Gen Alpha still has a while to come until it has any kind of impact. Of course, we have many of Gen Z's stereotypes still come from Gen Alpha, like iPad babies and
Zoom babies.
Yeah, Zoom baby. All those the stereotypes are mainly Gen Alpha. COVID babies. That's Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
But they are their own generation, and I feel like they still have room to grow. And obviously, every generation is interdivided because Gen Z in the 90s is different from Gen Z in the early 2000s, and that's different from Gen Z in the late 2000s.
That's true.
And it's every category of that generation has its own character to it, because the influences are different.
That's true. That's very true. Because I'm really scared about technology and how it's going to affect us as a whole of humanity. I think it's a lot of positive things, but there's always negatives. So I'm not scared. I'm more interested to see how it shapes our humanity, because it's completely different from us compared to the generation before us, when it came to technology. So it's just very interesting to me because, it's going to be different.
Yes.
iPad babies are going to be different.
They're going to be so used to it. It's going to, for them, it's be crazy. It's crazy to think of as a whole generation who would never know a world before any of this fast technology and cool gadgets and gizmos and instant shipping. There was a time they're going to grow up in a time where you don't have to go to the store. You just get delivered. Well, for the longest part of my childhood, you had to go to Walmart to get anything. You had to go to the nearest store to get anything. The only thing you could get delivered was pizza. Yeah, you couldn't get you couldn't get packages. You couldn't get like most packages. Like you can't go on Amazon and get a phone. You can't get groceries. You can't get a new replacements for your toys. You'd be screwed if you don't have a store that sells that near you. So that's a crazy life that younger kids are going to be able to be more used to than us. My subject of Gen Z is my category of Gen Z is very it's kind of the most used to technology of Gen Z because we were born in that time where technology was growing and the internet was growing, but it was not catching on still. When we were born, we still had many of the old things like buying DVDs and buying cable and having to go to physical places more often. But that's something that's almost non-existent for Gen Alpha.
That's crazy, yeah, because that's true. We're right in the middle of it being so big, but I think your generation. It's funny because his generation, he feels the same way that he was right in the middle too. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, we in and out. That's why we have the most. Of course, we have the most mixed views on things.
Yeah,
we either one leg this side, one leg this side. At least that's what I've noticed. That a lot of people say that too. Because we fall in between. We were the very tip of the internet even coming. It's like we were a little bit late for social media, but we're internet coming in. MySpace. So we kind of had a little bit of our. But how do you feel? You mentioned like you guys were talking about iPad babies. I mean, I can't say how do you feel, but what do you think is going to be the outcome? Okay, what's your take on that? Because I've seen like my nephews and that's what I was saying, we're in and out. I don't have a very vivid opinion on this, but it's very maybe it's a bit concerning because I know how social media, because it does that to me too. Yes. I watch YouTube more than I do anything in my life. I'm an outer, and I've seen my nephews, my niece, my cousins. They babysit on YouTube and they watch YouTube so much. What's your take on that?
Oh yeah, it's definitely.
I mean, just not even YouTube, just social, just being on it could be TikTok, whatever, social media. Is it not concerning to you that most kids don't even go outside anymore? I mean,
it is very harmful.
Health-wise, the sun,
It's proven harmful. Honestly, it's lowering attention spans of everyone, but especially younger kids, and it's ruining the social life of many kids. Don't have much of a social life, including me. Honestly, I'm not the most social person. I don't have much IRL friends. I used to, honestly, though. I feel like the pandemic definitely does not help too, because it forces kids to be online more often, including me. Throughout the pandemic, I was only online, and I lost many of my old friends throughout the pandemic. And most of my friends now, ever since coming out of that have been online. And while in ways that's a good thing, not going outside as much as previous generations is going to have many negative effects in the future that we just don't know yet, because most of these people who were affected by it are still very young and still have so much left to go before they are impacting our policies and jobs and everything like that. But I feel like it is a negative thing overall, to have such influence over our younger kids with the internet and social media, and even companies. Or no, people are saying that, and it's forcing some companies like TikTok to force their hand in a way, because I realized over the past like 2-3 years, TikTok has been taking a lot of efforts to make it so hard for anyone under 18 to comfortably use the app. Like, I had to make a second account a couple weeks ago because it's just so annoying being under 18 on that account, because like so many things are restricted to you. You can't do anything basically. You can't DM people, you can't buy anything, you can't post certain things, and content in YouTube too. The content is regulated so heavily. You have to be child friendly. You have to be not say this word. If you say any bad word, you're demonetized and you don't earn as much money. It is so harder now, because you're trying to. I get it's helpful for children and not putting bad habits in them, but at the same time, it makes it hard to use these apps and everything else like that.
That's true. You're right, because YouTube went through the whole demonetization issue, where they just started, guns weren't being promoted. Like, people with gun channels that were making a lot of money instantly lost their source of income because of that. The demonetization, the child friendly thing. Because now even when we upload a video, it says, "Is this made for kids?" And you have to say no, it's not made for kids, because if it's made for kids, it has to be made for for kids. And then I think you can't. I never understood the concept, but like sometimes it says I'll be watching a video and say this video is made for kids, so you can't minimize it and keep it playing.
It's like, a weird thing.
Why? What does that mean?
And then they turn off comments too. It's so
and
annoying.
they turn off comments and stuff.
So if it's made for kids, they turn off comments.
Yeah, turn off comments.
Yeah, because like it's they remove so many things. They remove comments. They remove dislikes because it's negatively affecting mental health of children. And I get it, but there's other ways you could do it than just removing it.
Yeah.
The TikTok thing surprised me. I didn't even know they were going to that extent. So I guess I can give the social media accounts some kudos. They're trying.
Yeah.
I mean, because with this, we kind of saying the kids this and that, but the least they could do, I guess, is start from bad content. But they really want you glued on there regardless.
Oh yes, definitely. It's double-edged sword. It's a weird debate, and every generation goes through their thing, and at the end of the day, it's still going to be a successful generation. I doubt Gen Alpha or even Gen Z will be a failure because of technology or a failure because of social media, but it will definitely have its heavy impacts on it.
Yeah, every generation is better than the last. I would say, they always improve better. I mean, some generations that we're gonna say questionable, but most of the time they're more successful than the last generation. But it's me. I feel the same way as you. I feel like it's a negative thing. Social media, technology is it's scary. And like you said, the pandemic, that was very much a very, very big factor in what is to come, because I feel the same way with the pandemic. It changed the whole dynamic of the world. Like now, because even some of these apps where you can buy stuff like food online, you can buy clothing, all that, it was pushed forward more faster with the pandemic. Amazon was struggling during the pandemic. I remember I was mad because it was saying it would take a week,
I know.
And it's funny because it used to take a week. But if another pandemic happened, Amazon would definitely still be able to deliver in 2 hours. They figured it out. I know they figured it out. So like you said, and even the social, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go outside, and I'm like, why don't I want to go outside? I'm not used to being outside like I used to be.
Yeah.
Like the pandemic, and it's funny because video games aren't even the same anymore.
Yeah, that's so boring.
They're so boring. and it's because we got the pandemic and we got to play games. We're like, oh yeah, we can play games. It's a month of not doing anything, and we're like, okay, this is kind of boring. Like, I can only play this for so long.
I know, man.
So like the gaming for me at least, gaming is just not what it used to be. I mean, I know the younger kids probably love gaming still, but the pandemic changed everything.
Yes, it did.
I think that's a very good point. Also, that's why the Facebooks are trying to change the experience of gaming. They want you in the game. They want to do the meta, like the VR.
Metaverse.
I think VR has already been a thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really about to take off. It's really about to be like something out of this world. Because it was like, you had to get the goggles, but now they're gonna have it where you just wear contacts.
Yeah. That's like,
because these things, I see how they progress. It's just like eventually now they're at a point where you're really gonna be in the. Because this is old school now, because you're using your fingers. The feeling was good, but it's not the same as you actually, moving your body. So they've developed. And remember when the Wii came out, it was cool, but it was but I think it's gonna make it bounce back.
Oh yeah,
Like,
the Wii was big.
But that technology is about to really come back again, because things come, it comes and it goes. Because electric cars came in before in 94, 96, but they were not. It was just not ready.
Hybrid vehicles.
Yeah. The military has been using the internet since 1622. They didn't want to share with people, but they couldn't expand it because it was just within their own circle. So it's interesting. It's really what a time to be alive, and I always say that. So
I am happy about the time period I'm alive in.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't have to,
definitely.
don't have to worry about slavery or any of that.
But that's definitely a hindsight thing, because I feel like everyone feels happy about their time period because you don't know what the future brings.
oh yeah.
There's people who 100 years from now be like, I'm so glad I didn't live through the 2020s. They had it so hard. They had to use phones. They had VR. They had the pandemic going on. So they didn't have holograms back then. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's always that's a hindsight thing, honestly. But I'm of course happy in the time period I'm living in, and more specifically the country, because there's still people who are in very ancient conditions in other countries and places in the world.
And like you're saying, it's more of a way of life, because people aren't thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in such a bad situation. It's just that's life. That's how it's not to them. It's not even bad. It's just that's how we live our life. And they probably, like you said, they probably enjoy their life.
Such is life.
Such is life. We look at it and we're like, I would never do that. And they're like, this is normal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you always talk about this too. Remember, when Henry Ford, when he made that, there's a saying that I saw the other day. He said people thought I was crazy when I said I'm gonna change the whole car industry to something about that, because they had horsepower. Up to this day, we still mention the cars, power via what it used to be. Good horses back then was they had power. They were pulling those carriages and stuff. But up to this day, we still reference the horsepower, and it's it's amazing.
Yeah, very much.
It's amazing.
What do you think about time travel? Do you think it's real? Or not real? Do you think it will ever happen?
I want to believe it happens, but at the same time, I feel like if it, I don't know. It's a confusing thing.
It's a paradox, right?
Yeah, it's a paradox. You don't know if it happened or not. So I don't know. Because if I feel like time travel was possible, there would probably be a way to notice that something has changed or happened. But at the same time, maybe we wouldn't. It's something that. It's a very confusing topic, but at the same time, I want to be optimistic just because it sounds such a cool idea.
Cool. I think time travel is a dream.
Maybe. Yeah, because that's what I always think about too, because I'm like, time travel, it is a paradox, because if it happened already, they would have came here. It's kind of like, or they would have went to the past.
Yes.
But then if you think about that, they might change the past. And that means our future is changed. So it's a big paradox. And, when it comes to trying, it's just a headache.
I very much so. But one thing that I noticed at the beginning of the podcast, but about high school, and I talked about people. I was thinking about this a couple of times throughout the podcast, because I was just thinking about how different people are. Main thing about high school life right now is when I talk about people who don't care, people just don't care. Like when you're talking about parents, I feel like this also has a generational thing. You know, parents are getting younger, and you know these parents do not care that much about school, and then now it's affecting these future children. Because while my parents are very strict, they would never let me miss a day of school. I know people who would, you know, not be in school for weeks or months, and I'm just like, how do you get away with that and not get punished severely? Because and there's like people who take their kids on vacation in the middle of the school year for a couple of weeks, and I'm like, how much I wish to be you, because like my dad would never take me anywhere during the school year, at least not like take away a week of school just to go somewhere. We would be in school throughout the entire school year, and then the summer would come, we'll go somewhere, and then school year again. And I feel like it's a very common thing amongst some parents, especially minority parents, to say the least, but especially younger ones, and who just don't care that much. And high schoolers nowadays are just so much more rebellious than they used to be, and they just I feel like it's progressively becoming more I don't care, and they just don't listen to anyone. They don't follow rules, they don't listen to teachers. They're just so rebellious nowadays.
So it's more of just a place to be away from home, or like just a time passer,
Mm-hmm.
not even for the education to the students right now.
Yeah, like people are failing classes, they're just so nonchalant about it, and I'm like, wow. How can you have a D, an F, a C average, and they don't care? And I know their parents don't care, because if their parents cared, then they would care too. They would be like, I have to get my grades up because I'm going to lose my phone, I'm going to lose these privileges that I have. But if they're not losing these things, then they just don't care. They continue to fail, they'll continue to be nonchalant about their failing grades and their low GPA, and it's going to have a negative impact. But high school is just so not cared about amongst people around me, in my opinion.
I think the other thing is, like, when you mention parents that don't care anymore, younger parents, it's almost that they're saying it's kids raising kids.
Yes.
So if I was young, what would I do? I didn't want to go to school, so why do I want my kids? So you're still feeling, is it wrong? Is it good? I don't know. But it's most of these are younger parents. So there is, like you said, there's an advantage to it to a certain extent. But I think that's the most of it right there.
Do you think we're seeing the effects of the No Child Left Behind Act, or the law, or whatever? Do you know about that?
I know. I don't know what it did, but I know it was something passed by Bush in the 2000s.
It was more of a he passed a law basically stating, and you can correct me on this, I don't know like deep into it, that basically what school is right now, we're gonna make sure we can try our hardest for them to get to the next grade.
Oh yeah, that's definitely happening. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, back then I believe it was they would hold you back if you didn't make it. Keep holding you back. But now it's that when he passed that law, it was more of a way to not fail kids and have them keep failing. Mm-hmm. So that's why they kind of give you so many chances and give you so much opportunity to go to the next grade, because the goal is to get you out of school.
Yeah.
And then of course that's good for the school if you have a high graduation rate.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I see that. I think that's very much an effect, because there's a lot of people who I feel like should not be in 9th grade going into 10th grade right now. They if that law was not passed, they would definitely still be in the beginning of middle school. And I feel like even me, I am a smart guy, but I'm not good at doing it the way the school wants me to do it. Through many times throughout my education, I was at points where I could have been held back, but probably because of that, I was pushed on, especially throughout elementary and middle school. They was just pushed on because they just don't care. Even though the teachers would be like, you have to do this, you have to do that, it's mainly because they were still in that mindset of you get held back if you are not achieving much. But I didn't have to do that much to move on. But it did work because it did put trauma in me to like not get to the point where I'm like failing because I don't want to I don't want to risk getting held back still.
You brought up a very good point about the not being able to. Well, this is something that's a hard issue when it comes to school. Is like it's hard because people learn different ways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to say, okay, you're doing bad, but what if you're really good at learning in a different way, and you're grading this guy on something like a test, which is remember everything, repeat.
Yes.
Like you might be different. I just feel like it's too you have to do it this way, like you're saying you have to do it this way. Well, why can't we do it? And kids will question it when they're younger until they're told no, you have to do it this way. They'll be like, well, why can't I do it this way? And it sometimes gets to the same solution, and you're like, well, that's kind of true. But the way our school, and that's just school as a whole, you can't really cater to everyone by can't cater each student. You have to figure out a way to get everyone in that bucket. But it's just kind of like I feel like that's my problem when it comes to like, especially like public school, like it's always about like everyone, like you were saying, it's good, it's for the people, but then everyone's a different learner. But there's just not enough people to teach everybody differently. So I understand, but then I also like I wish there was a way that we could have everyone be taught the way they can learn, Yeah,
there's definitely we should come up with a better way to do education. But I do see that younger teachers are trying a lot harder to be more appealing to the ways people learn differently. My what's it called? Chemistry / biology teacher. She in the beginning of the school year, she made us take this thing that would help her to know if we're visual, an audio, or a physical learner. And it was helpful because she was able to be more specific with everyone's needs and how they learn. That's something that is good that younger teachers are doing because they know that the way that school used to be is not good, so they're taking advantage of it the best they can. But of course, they're only teachers. They still have to follow curriculum and all these rules set by people in higher positions in the state government and the local government and federal government. But they're still trying a lot more than the older ones.
Yeah, it's they're just finding out that school is boring. They're trying to make it the best way they can make it interesting. But it's the same thing as like you said, we all can be Michael Jordan. So everybody learns different. You could teach me the same amount of basketball, same play, same way. I'm never gonna be able to be like him. We are just different as a species. We're just different people. We all have different talents, different niches. I mean, so yeah, that's a very good point. I wanna just, maybe for the sake of time, this might be a long one, but I just wanna ask you one more last question, since we're already talking about the stuff like this. So science or religion?
Science.
Why is it?
Because I feel like this is mainly because I grew up in a public school and not a Catholic school. And of course I've also been very, I gain a lot of knowledge from outside sources. I'm very knowledgeable. So I've gathered a lot of things that have led me towards believing the way the universe started in a scientific way rather than a religious way. Plus, my family was not forcing religion on me. There was a point where we were forced to go to church on Sundays, but as things became more tumultuous in my family, we stopped going to church so much. So that's one factor. But at the end of the day, I feel like I still would have been chosen the path I am on right now just because of how much I've learned and how it doesn't follow the way religion works. I'm not. I don't hate religion, and as long as you're not taking it to heart or focusing to making that your lifestyle, I don't care. You can believe in what you want to believe in, but for me personally, I just I respect science more than I do religion. And if you look at the way the history from a scientific way, It just, you can't correlate that in the way that religions like Christianity do. You can't say, I mean, you can, but not the same way. So while it is a very hard debate, and I'm not the best at arguing it, I I still, at the end of the day, choose science over religion. And the way that science has taught the beginning of man and the beginning of the universe and life and everything like that. And I respect the way anyone does. My family is very Christian. My brother, my mom, very, very Christian, especially. My mom, they still pray before they eat. They still thank God for everything, and I respect that. It's what they want to do. I don't care. But for me personally, I just don't see that as something, because I don't think that somehow there's this invisible force somewhere out there who's controlling everything and has a plan for everything. Because why would he not do the best for his kin? I know Adam and Eve story, but wow, this why? Like, it's such a weird story to me. Just because someone ate an apple, I'm gonna curse your species for the rest of existence because you did something I told you not to do. Like, I like if like it's cool. I don't care, but at the same time, I just can't with. I don't think it's possible. It's just not that likely when you look at it from a scientific perspective, which is something that I grew up with a lot on school and on everything else.
Yeah, you had some very valid points, some very good points in backing up your belief, and I like that. The way I look at it too is like I'm also showing how I'm a what you say I'm a millennial. Which one am I? Generation Y. It's because I'm in the middle of it too. Because like I was telling you, I grew up back home and I was in boarding school. So I, when I was home, I grew up having to go to church because I was going to school, and you had to either go to it was part of life,
Yeah.
At the time, that's all I knew. You either had to be an Anglican or a Catholic. And even when I was going to remember I got beat up so bad and mom got all crazy and stuff. But it's certain things that I always questioned even at that age, like, okay, if these people are so this, and then why are they doing that? But I came to a realization, at least to myself, to understand that I think my whole view on that is that they're both, science and religion are both, they're just different, I guess you could say, different categories. Where science uses experimental results to prove a point, and then the Bible also uses its own proverbs and parables.
Basically the same
So
thing.
it's basically the same thing. It's just which lane you take.
Yeah.
But because they're all doing the same thing, it's just science is more physical and is more. And I think with the world, the way things are going, it's leaning towards science more than religion. For different reasons.
Yeah.
Could be the same like example you gave. I mean, it's a good example. You say, you question, okay, why did this happen? Then it doesn't seem realistic to you because you can't touch. It's a story.
Yes.
Very versus with science, you're actually doing the experiment. You're there, and they're actually showing you how they do it. So, I could see that.
Yes, religion is decreasing a lot amongst younger people. It is the actual truth. Religion is falling a lot in the U.S. I should say, because it's not international, but it's, I feel like, it's mainly because people are more open to these things that prove that it's not that possible, it's not that viable. But at the same time, while science, I feel like, will become a much bigger thing than religion, religion will still be a very prominent thing in human society, because we want a purpose, for why we're here. We want to know, is there any answer? We want an answer to everything. We're very curious creatures. So, religion is one way that humans have created an answer in a way to their existence and everything around us. And that's something that some people will hold to heart no matter what, and that's something I respect. You can hold whatever you want to heart as long as it's not harmful, because I know people out there who would literally kill people because of religious beliefs. That's something that's very big in Islam, unfortunately, right now. lots of killing because of it. But it is something that is, at the end of the day, just humans being humans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
It was a good talk.
it was a good talk. It feels like I can keep going and going. I just
Yeah.
wanted to
I
see if I
know.
can end it at a good time here.
It's a fine time.
I always end this podcast when I'm hungry.
Same. I ain't eaten in a while.
My stomach. Yeah, but
Unfortunately, I don't have the very best podcast voice, but I hope I did sound fine to
oh
everyone.
no, you were fine. You're
Yeah.
perfect. And,
can
we
hear
really
it.
appreciate you. Your mindset was a very good conversation.
Mhm.
Your views, your point
Yes,
of views. We could. That's why I said we could go on and on and
I
on
know.
because you look at life at a very interesting,
I did.
from a very interesting, aspect. That's why I wanted to have
Perspective.
your perspective.
Like,
That's why I wanted to have you over
Yeah.
here to discuss that. And
Mhm.
your brother is the same too.
Yeah.
You guys are very special. Very
guys are
special
smart.
people, very
Yes.
intelligent,
People-
smart, and it's interesting. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. Probably be one of the youngest people, or if not only that, would
Mm.
even appreciate talking
Mm.
to. I
Mhm.
mean, of course, things can change, but you actually bring a lot of value to the podcast, and hopefully, a lot of people are gonna enjoy listening to this. And it's just one of many to come.
Hopefully,
so-
definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And
Oh,
with that, okay,
Talking to you guys actually made me very very excited.
Yeah.
Just like, cause I don't talk to like a lot of people who are younger than me. I'm usually the youngest, so talking to people who are younger than me and the way you guys talk, like everything you're saying, the way you speak, it made me like, you know what, we have a great future ahead of us. Like,
Yeah.
I was just sitting there and I was like, yeah, we're good.
yeah. And that's why we also need, we need leaders,
Mm.
young leaders, and that can do see stuff from a different perspective. Again, the first thing I'll reference your brother. He mentioned that he says something like, when you're a president, you're only looking at these people around you, but you don't look at the
Mm.
youngest person, what they think about. Because every time politics happen, you have your own thoughts, like how you explained why
Yeah.
you think the country, what you would do if a country would be, in a
Mhm.
in a
Civics,
state
yeah.
to make a state better or anything like that. Governors are not thinking of that. They just thinking, I can bribe to give me a lot of money.
Mm.
So, and where can I go and do a speech and raise a lot of money and
Yeah, man.
use the most powerful words that would just touch people and make them feel excited about themselves,
Mhm.
and then abuse my power the next few months. So it was I was very it was a very good interview, and I'm very
Mhm.
excited,
Thank
thankful
you.
for you coming
Yeah.
to the
I love
Yeah,
talking.
thank you.
podcast, and thanks so much. And
Only thing is my accent sucks.
no, you're good.
No,
you're
you're
good.
good.
You're good.
You're good.
And so with this, I'll end it. With the "Such is Life" motto. It's always better to accept reality when in extent of misfortune, as life is always unpredictable, and the results are not always in our hands. So hence we say, "Such is life."
Such is life.
Such is life.
All right, thanks. It's a wrap.
Of course.